Alright, so this is going to be a re-record of a quick method to do shadow volumes in Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is for Nihilus and Dasher that asked for it. I'm going to apologize before the video starts. My daughter's kind of watching TV within a relatively close vicinity to me, so at some point you might hear her playing. So first I'm going to start off by importing the mesh that Nihilus had sent me. Next, we are going to select the mesh and hit F. That's going to frame it. And just kind of zooms it out for us nice and quick. And we're going to go around and just look at, for these blue edges here, that's what we kind of want to seal off. So we're just going to go start, of course, by going, and I'm going to delete the shadow volume that he initially sent me. I'm going to duplicate the high resolution mesh, and we're just going to rename it. And for shadow volume in Star Wars Battlefront 2, all you have to do is SV underscore and then whatever. In this case, it is going to be we'll just still go with Goji is awesome, so that is permanently in there. And I'm going to just expand this. Now we don't need any of these, so we're just going to go ahead and delete that. For the weld edges op, we are going to freeze it. You can do this either by right-clicking freeze, or you can freeze the entire operator stack by going right, edit operator, freeze operator stack. And now we are going to do a second weld edges op, but try to get rid of as many of these little blue patches as we can. So we're going to go model, polymesh, weld boundary points and edges. Kind of just slide this slider around and see when things do or do not disappear. I believe last time that I did this I stopped at 5. It's important to note that while you do this, you should probably throw it into shaded mode and kind of look around. Make sure that you're not getting any weird weldeds or deformations in your mesh. In this case, I think for the most part we should be fine at 5. We're going to stop there. And next, we're going to have some of these sticky edges here where it's actually multiple polys that won't weld together. So we're going to have to do those by hand. There's another set over here. And so when you're doing that, we're just going to go model, polymesh, weld point tool, drag that up like that. And then along the back side as well, there's another 2 sets over here. Model, polymesh, weld point tool. Sorry, I accidentally welded that to the wrong point. And there should be one more down here, just underneath the grid there. Okay. With all those welded together, next thing that we're going to do is we are going to start capping what holes remain. So you're going to notice we have one right about here. And so typically if it's one hole, you can do it by selecting it like that on any point, go model, polymesh, and cap hole up here. And as you can see, that caps the hole off. Now, there's another way that we can do it as well. We throw ourselves into point mode with either the T key or by clicking the little button. There's this arrow right here, and we just go to border point and hit Control A to select all of your border points. You can only do this one at a time. There is a plugin you can do more with. I'm not going to show you in this particular video how to do that. So then we're just going to go polymesh cap hole and then repeat. We just Control A, model, polymesh, cap hole, and we keep doing this until our model actually automatically deselects Control A, model, polymesh, cap hole. When you hit Control A and it deselects, you know all your holes have been capped because you will not have any more boundary edges. Just like that. And I like to do this a second time to make sure, so throw it in point selection mode again, arrow, border point, Control A. If it deselects a second time, you can be relatively certain that it is going to be sealed. Now, last time I believe in the video, this was the point that I reduced the poly mesh. I'm going to show you a few other things here in this particular one to help preserve your shape a little bit better. So first, we're going to select your main mesh. This is, you'll notice the guns here, they're relatively low poly as it is. I don't really think that we need to lower their poly mesh any more than it already is. So we're going to select our main mesh here. We're going to look at our selection info, and we got 3,000 triangles. And we're just going to go Model, Poly Mesh, Polygon Reduction, and we're going to reduce it until it is at about 1,000 triangles. And, you know, we got relatively a similar shape here. And this time we are actually going to leave these ones here, for the most part, alone. There's a few little places here, and another one over here that we can probably reduce by like 50%. And for the most part, I think the guns are relatively low poly. We might be able to reduce those a little bit more as well. We want to maintain most of the shape here, and just doing this by hand tends to preserve it a little bit better. If you're going to do the auto, you can separate the model into kind of multiple little projects to do with that. Okay. And now one more time, we're going to go through with the full mesh here, and we're going to do one final reduction. And final triangle count of 1,000. And you can see that this time it preserved it a little bit better than it did the last time that we did the video. Most of our artifacts are not there. Shadow volume is completed. If we compare it to the original mesh, I mean, obviously it's not going to be as high of quality, but typically with a shadow volume, you don't want something to be a high quality. Finally, what we are going to do, and I recommend this as a final step anytime that you do any model, freeze your operator stack, triangulate your model, and finally we can hide it and drag it in here, and that will be all.